Hello friends, welcome back to my channel for this Sunday Mish-Mash. It's a little bit later in the day than I wanted to be filming this, and I've still got a to-do list a mile long. So I'm going to try to make this a short and sweet one, which will probably enhance how many people want to view it all the way to the end. Because as much as I like making an hour-long one, I understand that you'll pick and choose what you want, and since I have no idea how to edit or do timestamps or anything like that, it's hard to skip ahead. So it's going to be short and sweet today. I'm going to talk about my update on the top or on my 100 book challenge. I'm going to talk about what I'm going to be reading next, as well as talking about the 150 science fiction challenge that I'm undertaking and my progress on that so far. So, Michael, this Mish-Mash particularly is for you. So, the 100 book challenge. Since I announced it, I have finished a total of 8 books now. That is a combination of physically reading books and audiobooks. And I feel like that's actually pretty good. It's a pace that I would say that I probably can't maintain, but even if I do no other side reading, I'm going to finish at least 3 more books because of the 3 monthly reads that I've got going for the read-alongs that we're just pacing our way through. To show you what I've read so far, I've made this nice little poster board. So I've been printing out covers to put on here. So first book I finished was Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Fantastic. I absolutely love it. Then I finished Mad Ship, which I was about halfway through when I made the challenge announcement, but that was still another like 450 pages. So I had no problem adding that onto there. I finished listening to the last half of Dune, which again is a nice lengthy book, so I had no problem putting that on there. I finally got around to picking back up A Graveyard for Lunatics by Bradbury, so you'll see 2 Bradbury books finished there. I think that puts me at 5 Bradburys, so I'm going to make a video soon where I talk about my 5 Bradburys, or maybe it'll be in my next week Mish-Mash, who knows. I finished the rest of the Landmark Julius Caesar, so I'm still just counting that as just one book, since the ones I finished were relatively short. But I have read all 5 of the books in there. I didn't read any of the extra stuff this time around, but next time I revisit it, I definitely will be. I finished War of the Worlds. I read that with Alicia, so this could pop on there up to 4 more times because there's still 4 more books inside of there that I have not read or reread that I want to get around to because I'm really enjoying Wells. And then my most recent audiobook that I listened to, The Star's My Destination by Alfred Bester. This one's all Michael's fault. He sold it to me in his introduction to reviewing the video. And holy cow, it was so good. If you want to know the 2 that I finished this week, it is The Star's My Destination by Alfred Bester. And this is amazing. I wasn't so sure about it in the opening quarter, and then things just took off from there. If you like revenge tales, much like Count of Monte Cristo, which I love Count of Monte Cristo, but you don't want to sit through 1,400 pages or however long Count of Monte Cristo is, this is a nice, wonderful revenge tale. Can't recommend it strongly enough. And then just earlier today, I finally finished The Consuming Fire by John Skelsey. So this is book 2 in the Interdependency series. And oh my gosh, the last 20 pages, which is what I had left to finish this weekend. And finally, I just said, I need to just set aside time. I need to finish this because I wanted to finish it before making this Mish-Mash video. Oh my gosh. You guys. It's so good. So good. I absolutely enjoyed it. And one of my favorite paragraphs in the whole book I shared on Instagram just earlier today. But for those of you that don't follow me on Instagram or anything like that, let me pull it up. I'll just read that paragraph to you. There's not really any spoilers in this. In the meantime, she caught Fundapelonian up on the events of the day because these days Fundapelonian had no love left for the Nohampentans, and it would give her joy to hear of the travails. And also because Kiva just liked talking to her. Kiva considered that she might be developing a thing for Fundapelonan, crazy last names, which on one hand would be a very not Kiva thing to do, but on the other hand, who gave a fuck if it was not Kiva? Because she wasn't some fucking fictional character destined to do whatever some goddamn hack wanted her to do. Skelsey breaking that fourth wall, and just absolutely delightful. That last part of that paragraph just, it cracked me up at the time I saw it. I instantly stopped reading, snapped a picture of that paragraph, threw it up on Instagram because I absolutely loved it. And that's the kind of humor that you get with Skelsey all the time, and it's a sheer joy. So the books that I'm hoping to get around to soon, I'm hoping before the end of this month to finish reading the first of the epic collections from Conan the Barbarian. Unlike Michael K. Vaughan, I am considering this to be a book that is being read. So this will get added to that 100-book challenge when I'm done with it, because I have no problem considering them to be one and the same. The audiobook that I have up on my docket, I should finish this next week because it's only 6 hours long. It's nice and short. And that is Elric, the first book of Elric. And I'm excited. It's past due. Time for me to finally get into Elric. I mean, this is a short book, and this is going to help me get this off of my list because I've been wanting to read this for a couple months now. And there's no excuses for that. The next book that I am physically going to be reading, for sure, is my continuing buddy read of The Lifeship Traders by Robin Hobb. So this is book 3 of that trilogy, Ship of Destiny. So Beth Ann and Rachel are both ready. We're going to depart on this. They've probably already started it this weekend. Since it took me all weekend to finally finish the last 20 pages of The Consuming Fire, I've still got some more stuff to finish and things to get done. And we got a friend coming over later this afternoon. I'm not going to be able to start it today. I probably won't even get to start it tomorrow. But I'm hoping, well, tomorrow night I might be able to. But I am hoping no later than Tuesday to start in on this. It probably won't be done this month. I mean, it's 780-ish pages, which is shorter by about 70 pages than the last one, Mad Ship. But I'm excited to finish that trilogy. And speaking of finishing trilogies, the next books after that one, because that one's definitely the next book, there are 2 other trilogies that I need to finish book 3 on. That I started both of the series this year. I want to finish them before starting into new series. So I've got Forever Free by Joe Haldeman that I really want to get to. And of course, the one that I would be reading first if I didn't have a buddy read going on is The Last Emperox by John Skelsey to finish the Interdependence series. I might still try to squeeze this one in alongside Ship of Destiny if I can. And then for the non-trilogy readings, I in preparation of next year, I'm going to blast through the Student Guide to Chaucer's Middle English. Because this is only... Okay, go play. It's 55 pages long. So this will take no time at all. And I don't know if it'll be much to read or just a lot of instruction, but it'll be a good refresher before diving into the Middle English of Chaucer. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today is the 150 science fiction books by Michael from Fit to Be Read that he counted down. As of today, if you count just the books I read this year before seeing this list, plus the one book that I read last year as a reread, I'm through 13 of them. I'm not counting any of the ones I've read further back than that, because that would knock off a decent chunk, not a significant chunk, but a decent one. I'm fully happy to revisit Foundation and Speaker for the Dead and Ender's Game and iRobot and other fantastic books that I've read in the past, but have not read for a while. So the ones that are on this list that I've read and loved, and I know on some of these he counted the whole series as one grouping. I'm counting it if I've read at least the first book in there. It's off that list. It'll give me a good sampling. So I'm gonna jump down to the bottom of the list. So I'm working my way up. So Murderbot Diaries, I've done the first two. I may well listen to the audiobooks of the rest of them over the course of the time of doing this, but I absolutely love Murderbot. It's a fun series. I'm happy to see it make this list because it's wonderful. Ready Player One is the one that I did last year. I listened to it again, voiced by Will Wheaton, which he is a fun one to have tagged for that. Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, I just read last month. Let's see, War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, which I just finished this month. The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury, which I read that, I think October, might have been September, might even have been August, who knows. Caliban's War, so I read Leviathan Wakes earlier this year. I really need to get to the rest of those at some point in time. Because I'm in the 100 book challenge, I can't buy the books. And I'm trying to also have my audio listening aligned with books that are on my shelf. It might be a while before I pick this series back up, but it's one that I definitely want to return to at some point in time and go to books 2 through, I think, 9 that just got released. Forever War by Joe Haldeman. Absolutely loved it. Probably the most surprising book still of this year because I went in with absolutely no expectations on it. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I read the entire first trilogy and loved it. Fahrenheit 451, just finished reading last month by Ray Bradbury. Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, read earlier this year as well. I loved seeing all these Ray Bradbury that popped on here because that helped me get to that 13. I forgot to tag it on here, but The Stars My Destination by Alfred Bester is on this list, and I finished that now. Dune by Frank Herbert's on the list. And then earlier this year, I read Hyperion by Dan Simmons, so that was also on the list. So those are the ones I've read, and I've enjoyed each and every one of them. And at some point in time, probably when I get to 20 of them read, I'll probably break down my top 5 standouts from this and so far, and I'll be kind of keeping my own ranking of these as I'm going along. At least I think I'm going to. But I do own, I believe, 15 of the ones on this list that I have not read yet. So even with my buying ban, I'll be able to make good headway on my 100 book challenge just by reading off of this list, in addition to everything else that I'm already doing. So I own a copy of Foundation by Isaac Asimov. I own the first 3 Foundation, Second Foundation, Foundation and Empire. I have all 3 of those on my shelf. I'll probably read all 3 of those, but it still counts as 1 on this list, but it would count as 3 on my challenge. I still haven't read the 2 prequel novels or any of the ones after Second Empire, so I'm excited to get through that entire series at some point in time. And so once the 100 book challenge loosens up and I get done with it, I'll be looking for the rest of those to add to my collection. Maybe try to get a nice matching set, kind of like what I've got going on for the Dune series, being another series that I'd be happy to continue. Ender's Game, I have a copy of that. I don't have Speaker for the Dead, but I'm happy to revisit Ender's Game. And since Speaker for the Dead is so different, there's no need to read them back to back, reread them back to back. He had both iRobot and Caves of Steel as one kind of entry in there. And I have both of those, so I'm going to read both of those. And again, it'll count as 1 on the Sci-Fi list, but it'll be 2 on my 100 book challenge list. So I'm excited for that. I've got Ender's Shadow, which I have not read yet, by Orson Scott Card. So I'm looking forward to getting into that. I don't own it, but I will be in 2022. If you've watched Sandy from Miss Reads a lot, I'm going to be buddy reading at some time during the year, Neuromancer by William Gibson with her, which I think will be great for both of us because it's not an easy one to get through. And hopefully it will help me have a better appreciation for it, and it'll help Sandy get through it for the first time, because it's not an easy one, even though it's nice and relatively short compared to a lot of more modern books and some of the books on her list. 1984 by George Orr. Well, I love the book to pieces. I have ever since I first read it back in my high school years. So I'm happy to revisit that one at some point in time. It's been a while. The Moat in God's Eye by Larry Niven. I'm also excited to get around to that one. That's a series that I've been wanting to get. I got that on my indie bookstore trip. Old Man's War by John Skelsey. I have a feeling that this will be sooner rather than later with how much I'm enjoying his writing in the Interdependency series. So I'll probably be departing onto that book pretty early in 2022. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I've had that one on my shelf for a big chunk of this year and haven't gotten around to it yet, and I need to fix that. Time Machine by H.G. Wells, which is in my Wells collection. Down Below Station by C.J. Chera. I own. Didn't even know I had owned it until I was looking through the books I got. It was in one of my vintage sci-fi eBay lots that I bought. So I was happy to see that was on my shelf from there. Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. That's one that I might also be unofficially buddy reading with Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot at some point in time, because we both need to get around to it. And I know I need to get to Becky Chambers. I'm not impressed by her first two novellas that I've read, but I've heard that if there's a book that I will appreciate by her, it will be this one. I'm okay if it's not, though, because I would be okay with not needing to read the rest of another series. Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein I have on my shelf, and I don't think I've ever read it. I know I've started it before, but I don't think I've ever finished it. Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke is on my shelf. I'm excited to get to that one. The Algebraist by Ian M. Banks, as of yesterday, I now have on my shelf. Thank you to Alicia for sending that one my way. Invisible Man by H.G. Wells, being the last one that I have on my shelf. So those are the ones that, over the course of the next year, I'll be getting around to, because I have them physically on my shelf. And then if I get through all of those, or get through all of the books that I physically have on my shelf that I have access to in audiobook form, once I run out of those, if I'm still in the middle of the 100-book challenge, I'll probably start doing audiobooks of the ones that I don't have off of this list, because I want to make some good headway on it. And I'm excited to get back to the rest of these. And as long as I don't get things like the rest of the Hyperion Cantos appearing at my door, or Under the Tree for Christmas, or anything like that, because if that shows up, I'm dropping everything and reading Fall of Hyperion next, because I really want to get around to that. Reflecting back, and sometime soon I'll be doing my top 10 books that I read this year. I've got them ranked, but there's still another handful of days. And it goes to show Consuming Fire and Stars My Destination, I think, are both going to make the cut for 10. But I had to split it out to do top 10 rereads and top 10 new reads, because otherwise half the list would have been rereads, because how do you compete with The Hobbit and The Silmarillion? You just don't. Those are going to be the top two no matter what I do. And then I've got these Ray Bradburys, the Martian Chronicles. I've got the Illustrated Man. I've got Fahrenheit 451. So it quickly dawned on me that I needed to separate it out and to do both of them as separate top 10 lists. And I came up with 35 books before I finished Consuming Fire. So Consuming Fire wasn't even in consideration when I did that Friday. But I have my list tentatively that I'll be ready probably December 31st or January 1st. I'll try to get a video up where I talk about the top 10 of each of those, so that you know what were the best books that I read this year in my first mostly full year on BookTube. And I mean, it's been fantastic. So I'm going to keep this nice and short. I'm going to just stop here. Thank you for watching. I hope that you are doing well, that you have a great rest of your weekend or start of your week, if it happens to be, on Monday or Tuesday when you watch this. So thank you for watching.